I want to talk about, sort of moving on from the Microsoft stuff, Stop Killing Games.
Stop Killing Games has reached 1 million signatures, which was their original goal.
Yep.
But the interesting part is how they actually got there. As a matter of fact, it's not even 1 million. Right now, it's at 1.1. And if you are an EU citizen, you probably should check it out and potentially sign the petition as well. Because for those of you that aren't aware, maybe you're like new to the podcast or something, the Stop Killing Games initiative is something that was made by a guy called Ross. His channel is called Accursed Farms. And the point is that whenever certain video games reach end of life, like a video game that's going to be doing that here pretty soon is actually Anthem. Yeah. It's going to be reaching end of life in January 2026. The servers are going to be shut down. And at that point, that game is going to be rendered.
Oh no.
What do you mean, oh no? What? It is oh no, bro. I liked Anthem, bro.
Are you still playing it?
No, I'm not. But that doesn't mean I didn't like it, and I did.
Yeah,
doesn't mean I didn't want the option to play it later. I mean, you can say the same thing about the game that originated this whole thing, which was The Crew. Are you playing The Crew? Yeah. So, but anyways, the point is, the argument that is being made is that video games should be preserved and be made playable after the game has run its course, particularly if it's a game that, you know, it's mostly a single player experience, as was the case for The Crew. Yeah. And
as
it would
is
be
the
very
case
easy
for
to
Anthem. Just FYI, you could make Anthem a single player experience.
You could just play it solo. Yeah. But basically the idea is there should be like a reasonable effort to ensure that these games are still playable after they've been sunsetted by the companies that worked on them, whether that is through the means of the company providing you with a server so that you can host your own video game, which probably is not that hard. This is something that Palworld did, by the way. So it's like Palworld, which is also a game that is largely multiplayer. Most people play it in multiplayer. You can also play it solo, of course, but they just simply provided players with a server. Same thing that Enshrouded did. They provided players with a server. Should you want to engage in multiplayer with your friends, you can host a server.
Valheim allows you to get your own server.
To host
you can
server
even
as well.
Literally get your own server for that game, and it'll just run.
Yeah. So it's like there's a lot of video games that are already being considered when it comes to this, but naturally big AAA companies are not. So that's kind of like the purpose of the Stop Killing Games initiative is like, hey, these games should be playable after they've run their course because people bought these games and now they get fuck all. Yeah. And the game that started all this was The Crew from Ubisoft because they just shut that bitch down and they literally removed it from people's libraries, you know? Like, doesn't that just feel good for this digital future of ours? Where Ubisoft just literally went to your game library and just went like, bloop, I'll just take that one away. And you're just like, hey, wait, I paid for this. What do you mean you're just going to take it away?
Yeah, but
just like, boop.
Just to be
they
clear,
literally removed access to. You can't even look at the main menu anymore, brother. It's
but
gone.
As you're standing in front of Ubisoft going, bro, what did you do? Why did you remove my game? They literally just come out the door and go, boop, on your nose, and then get back into the building because that's how little shit they give.
They give no fucks, zero fucks. So Ross made this initiative, and what happened was when Ross made the initiative, it was picking up steam, it was doing great, but then Pirate Software reacted to it, and you know, Pirate Software being absolutely massive, he reacted to it and he said, "This is a pile of shit. I fucking hate this. I'm going to tell people not to vote for this. You can eat my whole ass." That was some of the words being used. You know that? He actually said, "You can eat my whole ass." The whole thing. I was like, what the fuck? Tell me how you really feel about this. And what the fuck? And that pretty much stopped the initiative in its tracks because Pirate Software at the time was extremely influential. Now, the interesting thing about the Stop Killing Games situation is that since then, Pirate Software has actually had multiple hits on his credibility. Yeah. He's been subject of multiple dramas. Everything started with the hardcore World of Warcraft situation where he kind of roached out. I still believe that in that situation, like the guy's saying, "Everybody run! It's a fucking, we're all gonna die." Like to me, that guy that was shot calling, that guy's the main responsible dude. But you know, Pirate Software could have just gone like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I panicked because somebody was fucking screaming on comms, bloody murder, like we're all gonna fucking die and run away." And guess what I did? I fucking roached the fuck out. But regardless of like all of that, that situation caused a lot of people to go over his past very, very scrupulously to the point where
the internet was having a real one. You know, the internet was doing what the internet does.
The internet pulled out all the stops, and there was like then something about him employing underage people to work for him and shit like that.
What?
There was like
what?
Oh yeah. Oh no, you don't know how deep the rabbit hole goes. I'm not going to go too in depth in this. So I'll just say allegedly because I didn't do too much research. But I remember at the time I was looking like there was a lot of shit that went down after the World of Warcraft situation. Yeah. Now, it is also important to mention that I do feel that a large portion of it started reaching like that level where it's just like, okay, now we're just being fucking unhinged, which has gone down that road. But basically, you know, Ross didn't want it to get involved in any of this drama. He's like, oh, well, I guess it's going to fail. But then as it was reaching the end, Ross goes, you know what? I'm going to give it one last push. And Ross went ahead and he addressed everything that Pirate Software was saying about the initiative, everything Pirate Software got wrong. And because people were already poised against Pirate Software, basically what they did is like, you know what? Now I'm just going to sign this thing just to fucking spite him. Fuck that guy.
Like,
and it just goes to show you that people are so much more motivated for like vengeance and spiteful actions than actually doing good. So the negative energy behind people being against Pirate Software, I feel like, is one of the main reasons why this thing made it through the finish line, which is absolutely insane to think about. But yeah, that is something that happened.
I don't necessarily know if it's just if it's just
it's not just
stuff,
that,
right?
No.
Because I do think...
But I think it was a big part of it, absolutely.
100%. But I think another big part of it was absolutely... you had PewDiePie, Jacksepticeye, you had some of the big hitters of YouTube, you know, suddenly starting to cover this. And you could see, right, people finally realizing that this is a thing. If anything comes out of this that I would want, it's that companies stop trying to shoehorn multiplayer into games that could just be single-player games. I think that would be the dream scenario for me, because there's so many games out there that get ruined because the company sees some live service angle on their bloody video game. When you go, man...
Angle is the right word.
This would have been a phenomenal single-player game. What's the right word?
No, I was saying that angle is the right word. Like, it's not actually a feature that they wanted to do. It's not actually something that they want to do. It's like, I see an angle where I can make some fucking money. Let's go.
I see this gap where I can shoehorn some live service bullshit into the game. And you're just like, man, it made it infinitely worse immediately as soon as you did that. So hopefully companies sort of take a longer, harder look at that and sort of start to be a lot more careful when they make these kinds of decisions.
You know what this reminded me of? This actually reminded me of another game that came out last year that I really, really enjoyed, which is Wayfinder. Because Wayfinder was being published by the fine folks over there at Warframe Digital Extremes, and then they just like said, you know what? We don't feel like doing this publishing thing anymore. Fuck all y'all. Good luck. And they were like, wait, but you have our servers. You guys developed our servers. Like, what do we do now? And they went and they converted the whole game to single player. And it took them literally 3 months to fix the whole fucking thing. That's how much it took them. They went from a full-on live service structure to a full-on single player with optional multiplayer structure in 3 months. So I don't want to hear it from all of these big studios. It's like, it's so hard. You don't understand. man. It's like, cry me a fucking river and then go fix your fucking game, okay? When you're done crying me a river, build a bridge and fucking get over it, bitch. Get to work. Get to work or put the fries in the bag, bro. Figure it the fuck out. Oh, shit. Look what I did. I painted myself. See, look at that shit. Fuck.
Hopefully it works out that way. As you guys know, I'm a little afraid when it comes to government stuff. And I recognize there's some commenters who said, bro, these things are supposed to be, you don't have endless space to add on these petitions. So you kind of have to be as succinct and short and sweet as possible, and it will get hashed out later. That scares the living shit out of me. Like the whole, we'll fix it later with government.
We'll fix it in post.
When it gets to fixing it later with government, I don't like it. Right? Because I find ever seen the government
completely trustworthy. Why are you laughing? Is there something wrong with the South African government, brother? I find my Portuguese corrupt. Like, listen, you want to know why I find my Portuguese corruptment trustworthy? Because I can always trust them to be as corrupt as fucking possible. They're predictable.
The reason we started recording this a bit late is because I was stuck making a video about my government screwing up big time once again. That's why we were late.
They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that. No, I don't believe you.
The one thing I can trust my government on is the fact that they will always... In 1998, they're warned, if you don't start building new power stations, in a decade, we will have load shedding. We will have blackouts, because we will simply not produce enough electricity for the government, for the country. Guess what my government does? They don't build new power stations.
They said, I don't believe you.
Yeah, they basically just said, well, thanks for letting us know.
My feelings don't care about your facts.
Yeah. And then in 2008, bam, load shedding happens, right? The country has no longer enough electricity. Then everyone's going, bro, you guys have to start building nuclear power stations right now. We need power stations. This is going to be a big problem. If this lasts until like 2014, when they finally start building the power stations, right? Because now they've waited enough time. Those power stations then take almost a decade to build. They're still not actually finished because they were built wrong. They literally built them with schematics, I believe, from Europe. But Europe uses a different kind of coal than what we use here in South Africa. And so the coal that we use in South Africa
destroys... You guys stole our schematics?
No, they literally just got it. They used a company from Europe to draw up the papers, the plans for the power station. The company from Europe...
This seems fucking sketchy, bro.
Oh, dude, so much money was stolen throughout this whole thing. Like, the budget for this thing was like 10 times more than what it was originally promised to be, because everyone had to get paid and, stolen money everywhere.
I'm sure...
Yeah, so...
I'm sure that Portugal also didn't steal any riches from Africa like we did from Brazil. I'm 100% sure we never did that.
Dude, if you didn't steal the riches from Africa, we would have just pissed it away anyways. It doesn't matter, because I live in a country where I can tell you we're not good at keeping what we have, So, yeah, but anyways, I just
My Portuguese ancestors would never steal or enslave. They would never do this.
Dude,
what do you mean?
Every Portuguese guy I know here in South Africa owns a fish and chip shop. Like, every single one. Like, every fish and chip shop is owned by some Portuguese dude.
That's a British thing, though. Why would Portuguese dudes be doing fish and chips?
In South Africa?
It's weird.
That's a Portuguese thing. Like, not necessarily even just fish and chips, but just they own a cafe. Every single Portuguese guy I know owns a cafe. Now, the cafes that we have here in South Africa is different to the cafes you guys know in Europe. A cafe here is what you call, in England, I believe they call them off licenses, which is like a corner.
I have no idea what the fuck that is.
Think of it as like a shop that sells a bunch of general goods at an increased margin.
Like a gas station thing?
Without the gas station. So there's no gas station. It's just like but then they always have these fryers in the back where they fry like
chips. It's a 7-Eleven.
Yeah, sort of something like that, right? Again, not called 7-Eleven. We do have 7-Elevens here, but they're a different thing. But they're the same thing, but more fancy. These are always dirty as shit. Like, you can see the grease everywhere, right? Not greases in the country.
It adds flavor.
Grease. That is the base fish and chips you can buy, is from one of these greasy outlets where you sort of know you're on the verge of getting food poisoning, that's when you know the shit I'm gonna get now is good.
You're on the verge, but not there yet, right?
Yeah. They'll
that's
clean
the best
it
shit.
just before it kills you. Like they'll get in there and quickly scrub it down and get it back to not clean.
It's like, okay,
but decent.
The toxicity levels are a little bit too high right now. We need to bump those down just a smidge, not too much though.
Yeah.
Don't clean it too much, but clean it a little bit so that it doesn't kill Akalon next time he comes around.
Everyone knows the base food you can buy from from doner kebabs or kebab shops to fish and chips isn't from places that look super clean. If a place looks super clean, you just know you're not getting the best food. You can taste the cleaning liquid on that food. You want the 5-day-old oil. That's the one you want because that's where the good food is.
Yeah.
But okay, so
That's good shit.
I have distrust in the government. It is what it is. I'm really hoping that the stop killing games thing goes through and that the government takes a look at it. And as I said, for me, best case scenario is that companies start looking long and hard at this sort of constant push for live service and just make single player games.
It's so funny how naive I used to be because when I got into World of Warcraft, I always had this idea that like if eventually they shut down the servers, they're gonna let us play single player, right?
Right.
Young me was so dumb. Young me was so fucking stupid, bro. It was like, you're so dumb. If they shut that bitch down, you ain't never seeing shit. It's gonna be like what happened with NetEase, right? NetEase was handling it in Asia, and Blizzard was like, you can download your character data. It's like, wait, what? Yeah, and then stuff it up your ass because that's all it's good for.
Later,
you download your character data, stuff it up your ass. It's gone now, bitch.
Yeah.
Can't play that shit no more.
Yeah, always super fun.